drawing the face, one needs to consider the center lines of where the features are. So with the head, we look at the angle of the eyes, bottom part of the nose, center line of the mouth, and chin. In most cases, from the edges of the nose with a line straight up is where the eyes start, and the width of the nose in most instances are the size of the eye. But people differ, so it's better to look at an angle from the edge of the nose to the edge of the eye. Now, the distance in between the eye and the ear, in most cases as well, relate to the size of the eye or to that of the size of the nose. But again, measurements is far more important. Where the eye level and the nose level is, straight line is where the ear attach from top to bottom, and the edge of the mouth straight down is the size of the chin. So with the face to the side, we look at a center line from the cranium around the nose, around the mouth and chin, and the level of where the eye is in relation to the turning point on the nose and the center line of the mouth to that of the chin. We can see that, again, the line from the eye attached to the ear straight from edge to edge and from edge to the nose to edge of the ear is where the ear is attached. Now, with a slight angle from the edge of the nose is where the eye starts, but you can see that the eye is on a trajectory angle from the embankment towards the turning point of the eye. From the eye straight down the edge of the nostril, the meeting point is at the size of the mouth, and the length and angle of the nose, in most instances, if we consider the length from where it turns and the angle from eye to edge of the nose, we can see that that angle and size would be the distance between the edge of the eye to that of the ear. Again, in most instances, these angles will differ from person to person, but this is a nice rule by thumb to follow, looking at what is the distance between the edge of the eye and the starting point of the ear. So with a straight line from the turning point on the mouth straight towards the ear is where the meeting point of the jaw will be, and then the lines will traject down to the trapezius muscle around the neck towards the back part of the head. Now what we will see from looking at the distancing of the head here is there's a turning point from the edge of the eye around the temple to the edge of the head at the back, where the little crown is on the hair. Straight down is where the meeting point is to the neck at the back. From the cranium at the top to the meeting point of where the temple was, we find the forehead across, and then from the ear around to the tip of the head in the front is the size. Now again, at a different angle of the face, we're looking at the center line of the head, turning point on the nose, turning point on the eyes, and turning point on the mouth and chin. But again, what is important here is now looking at the size of the eye and the embankment of the eye and the edge of the face, and looking at, again, the meeting points of the edge of the nostril to the meeting point of where the eye starts, the eye ends with an angle from the edge of the nose to the edge of the eye, turning point, again in this instance, because the head is tilted towards the edge of the mouth, is slightly more angular, as well as the center line of the eye will meet the center point of the edge and size of the mouth. Then straight lines going down in relation to the angle of the head, we will find the size of the chin. Now, in this instance, we have the turning point and distance again with regards to the edge of the eye to the edge of the ear. And again, we can look at the size of the nose, even in this angle, to be that of the space. And looking at a different angle of a face, what is important here is looking at the size of the eye on the edge. Many people disregard how big the size of the eye is, as well as how open the eye is on the side. Now again, looking at the width of the nose in relation to the size of the eye, looking at the angle and meeting points of the eye, you will find the size. And again, looking at the width of the nose in relation to the edge of the nostril, center line from that to the eye, you find the size of the mouth. And looking at the turning point on the far right, we can see that that is where the ear will be. And again, size of the nose, distance in between eye and ear, we know where to place the ear in relation to the angles of the face. Again, center point of the mouth, angle of the face is where the jaw is. So starting with a new angle of the face, we look at center line of the eyes, nose, mouth, and chin. We're not going to look at redefining the structures necessarily in this instance of what the features will be. That will be in a different tutorial, but rather here's just the placement of features. So again, looking at the edge of the nose, edge of the eye, straight line up for the embankment of the eye on the left to start. Center point of the nose, turning point on that would be that of the center line of the cheekbones. Around the temples and embankments of the eye, we find the center line of the eyes moving straight down to the edge of the mouth, looking at the top lip and looking at the turning points, and size moving down towards the chin. We see far less of the face on our right because of the turning points, but again we can see that there's a turning point on the top part of the head, angle moving down towards where the ear will be, that is related to the eyes and nose. On a different angle with the head tilted more to the back, we will see now in this instance more of the bottom part of the nose, but again our angles relate from the tip of the nose towards the tip of the eye, in this instance the bottom lid. But again, straight line from the edge of the nostril to the edge of the eye, edge of the nose to the edge of the eye, center line down to the mouth. Center line from the eye meets the size of the mouth down towards the chin, angle towards the cranium, around to the jaw, and now we see the bottom part of the neck. Looking at a different angle from the head, slightly more from above, we see more of the embankment in this instance and less of the eyes, but again the angle relates from the edge of the nose to the edge of the eye and the edge of the nostril meeting the size of the eye on the right. We move our lines around the temple and head to meet where we know the edge of the face is turned, where the ears would be, looking at an angular point from the eyes to the ear. Again, our center lines of eyes, nose, mouth relate to where the placements are of the ear, top and bottom, and jaw around to the neck. Again, looking at a more angular turn of the head, looking at eyes, nose, mouth, and chin, we will see that the nose is angled more specifically, seeing the bottom part, but straight line up again will be where the eye starts, angled to the edge of the eye, around the cranium, and edge of the eye on our left. That temple then meets down from the center of the nose to the mouth. Center line of where the eyes would be is the size of the mouth. Edges of the mouth would relate then to where the chin would be. Angles from the edge of the mouth and edge of the nose relate to the width of the jaw. We see more of the bottom parts of the chin and neck, but again our meeting points of lines relate to the ears and where they will be placed. Last angle in this instance is looking at a neck being slightly turned in this case, where we'll have the placement of the nose moving around the embankment of the eye on the right, which is slightly less of volume because the head is going to be turned, where we will see more detail and volume on our left part of the face. Again, lines move around the temples, around to the cranium, and from the cranium around we look at moving down to the nose, where the meeting points are between the edge of the cheekbone to the furthest point on the left cheekbone. Center line from the nose down towards the mouth, we look at the top lip and bottom lip. Turning points towards the center part of the cheekbone, around to the jaw. Meeting point from level of the eyes and level of the nose is where the ear is, around the head, and the turning point as mentioned on the neck to the side. Now again, looking at the angle of eyes, nose, mouth, and chin. In this instance, where we always start with the face is the nose. Why we start with the nose is we start with the ball of the nose and structure, looking at what the lengths are and meeting points from the nose to the eyes. A lot of people want to start with the eyes, but if the eyes are wrongly placed, you will either have the nose being too long or too short, and it's far easier to change the size of the nose than that of changing the structure of the eyes, because they take a little bit more time due to detail to build them up. But again, looking at this angle, all our angles relate as what has been explained, from eyes to ear at the top, from nose to bottom of the ear at the bottom towards the neck. Similar with now looking at a profile angle of the face, our centerline meets the furthest point on the nose. Again, width of the nose, angle towards the eye. And what is important to realize with an eye on the side profile of a face is, remember the triangle. The eye is shaped in a triangle because it's not a hieroglyph that you see the eye from the front, but more on an angular side. Again, where the mouth starts is the center of the nose. Again, width of and size of the mouth would relate to the size of the chin. Size of the nose is the meeting point from edge of the eye to the edge of the ear, moving around to the cranium. Now, on a slightly turned angle again is looking at level of the eyes, nose, mouth, and chin. Starting off again with the nose, building up the structure of the nose that we'll get at a later stage. But here, identify the turn from the bridge of the nose around the volume on the furthest eye on our left. On that embankment, it moves around the temple. Straight line from the edge of the nose is the meeting point on the eye. Around the embankment of the eye on the far right, meeting the bottom part of the cushion area. So again, the center line of the nose is where we will start with the philtrum and building up the mouth. Center line of the eye meets the center edge line of the width of the mouth towards the bottom part of the chin. So with regards to the angle of the face, again, our angles slightly shift more to sideline, looking at where the ears will be placed. Again, looking at the center line here of where the eye and nose and mouth is, we are starting to draw the profile of the face, in this instance in terms of tonal value. So if you know the size of the nose is in relation, in this instance, looking at the size of the eye from an angle from the edge of the nostril to the edge of the eye, looking at the center line from the nose towards the top lip, building the center line from eye to the edge of the mouth, bottom lip towards the chin, and our angles to the jawline and placement of the ear. We are now able to build up the features using tonal value, and the tonal value is guided by the structures that we build up from jaw to cheek to turning point of the embankment of the eyes towards the ear and cranium. And this is a process of how one will be able to build up with cross-hatching a very quick rendition of the facial features. Looking at the last pose here is again center line, level of the eyes, nose, mouth, and chin. Again, starting off with the turning point on the nose, knowing that line is the bottom part of the nose. Building up the nostrils, edge of the nose moving across to the embankment on the eye on the furthest side on our right. Looking at the size and openness of the eye, being not as closed as what we normally would think it would be. But again, looking at from the edge of the eye moving down to the cheek, our angles move across the face from the nostril straight up to the meeting point of the eye, where it starts, edge of the eye, edge of the nose angle, building up the same size and volume from top lid to bottom lid of the eye, moving around the temples across to the cranium on the top part of the head. Angles from the center lines of the eyes again meet the edges of the mouth. From the center line of the nose down to the philtrum and top lip, we start to build up the bottom lip. Remember, we won't attach the bottom lip, we build that up in tonal value. But again, looking at the structural points here, edge of the mouth is the edge of the chin, building up the jaw in relation to the turning points, as I said, from temple to edge of eye. And that is the basic structuring of building a head.